Hi there, thanks for tuning in. I'm Sally. One of the things that I do is I coach people on health and wellness and good nutritional habits and so forth, which by the way are very different from what most of the mainstream media and the food industry are telling you. That's a whole different story. We can talk about that at length. This is just a short intro to some videos that I actually shot previously in my Sticks and Bricks kitchen. But it's also recipes that I would make in my RV all the time anyway and do. So I thought rather than having to reshoot those videos, I'd kind of repurpose them here for you so that you can see what kinds of things you can do. The two primary instruments that I use when I'm cooking in my RV, I use my Instant Pot a lot and I use my air fryer a lot. I love both of those things and for a couple of reasons. Neither one of them heats up my RV kitchen, and summers are getting warmer, pretty much no matter where you are, and heating up the kitchen on a warm summer day, just not my favorite thing to do. Now, I'm fortunate, I have a fair amount of solar and I've got lithium batteries, so I can live off grid pretty much continuously without any issues. And one of the ways that I kind of manage my power consumption is I have a tendency to do most of my more intensive electric type cooking earlier in the day, so that I've got pretty much all day for my solar to be able to catch my batteries back up if I've depleted them more than I would otherwise have done. So that system works really well. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. Please do check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Okay, tribe, here's what we got going on this evening. We're going to make some beef stroganoff. So you didn't need to watch me cut stuff. I've got about 1.5 pounds of, I'm using stew beef because that's what I had available, that I've sliced up into about 1 by 1 by 1/4 inch cubes. About 1.5 pounds of that. This is 24 ounces of baby bella mushrooms, stems cut flush and quartered. And here I've got a cup of parsnips, sliced up a whole onion. And we're going to be seasoning with some garlic powder, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, some salt and pepper, and some coconut milk. So here's how we're going to make this happen. I'm going to put about 2 cups of the mushrooms and a little olive oil in the pot on the stove and get those going, because that's how we're going to make the sauce for the stroganoff. We're going to combine some mushrooms with the parsnips and a little garlic and water, and that's how we're going to make the sauce, which will be awesome. I did something similar to this for Thanksgiving with green bean casserole. I can link to that recipe as well. So I'm going to put some garlic in here. About 1/3 of a teaspoon, a little over a clove, and we'll just stir that around and let it get going. So that's going to take a few minutes to do its thing. And in the meantime, we're going to start the Instant Pot on saute, and we're going to use that to get the beef browning, and then once that gets going, we'll add in the rest of the mushrooms with that and cook them up. Now the correct method here, which I'm not going to use because I'm hungry and in a hurry, would be to do this in several different layers. Get some of the beef in and let it cook up a little bit, and then pull that out and add in some more until it all gets brown. I'm going for the shortcut method here today, so we'll see how it turns out. I think it'll be fine. And of course, one of the things to think about whenever you're working with meat is to make sure that you're practicing good food safety. So this was the mushroom container, and I used that to put the sliced beef into, and then I can just throw that away, and I didn't have to touch anything. So that's cool. And we're going to get our beef going here. That'll take a couple of minutes. Okay, our beef is mostly brown. We're not quite there yet, but we're making good progress. And I'm going to go ahead and dump in the rest of our mushrooms and let them start rendering. And of course, I remembered what the downside to doing it this way instead of doing the beef in batches is, which is that the beef is kind of cooking more than it is browning, but we'll be okay. And I'm going to go ahead and dump in the onions as well. And we're going to just let all that saute together for a few minutes. And meanwhile, we're going to go check on our other batch of mushrooms. We're going to check on our other batch of mushrooms over here, which are looking super good. And so, we're going to go ahead and add in the parsnips. And I'll put a cup of water in with those, bring it up to a boil, and let them cook for probably about 7 or 8 minutes until they get nice and soft. And then, we're going to put them in the immersion blender and blend that up into a really lovely, smooth sauce. So that should be really good. I got some beef broth here too, I just heated up. Just trying to get this all mixed up pretty well. The beef is mostly brown, so we're looking good there. And we're going to be serving this beef stroganoff with some cauliflower rice. So I just got some pre-riced cauliflower out of the freezer, and we'll be cooking that up in just a little bit. As always, I'm kind of winging it here. The beef and the mushrooms and the onions are looking pretty good, but we got to wait for the mushroom and parsnip section to boil up and get those parsnips nice and soft. And then we're going to immersion blend that so we can add it in with the rest of the meat and the other mushrooms and so forth. And then we'll be cooking it in the Instant Pot with the rest of the seasonings for I think probably about 12 minutes ought to be way plenty. So that's what the plan is. In fact, we can go ahead and start adding in the seasonings. We're going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. Let me shake that up. Now, typically, I don't use Worcestershire sauce very often anymore because, as with so many other things, it's got added sugar. Makes no sense to me. But at 1.5 teaspoons, I'm going to put in a little more garlic, probably about another clove and a half or so. So every 1/4 teaspoon of granulated garlic is equal to a clove of regular garlic. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. And we got a fair amount of juice going on in here, so I'm probably not going to use too much of the beef broth. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. I'm going to go for about 1 teaspoon or so of salt. Yeah, about 1.25 teaspoons. And remember, I'm using Himalayan pink rock salt, so it's okay to use more of that than you would if you were using conventional salt. And my grinder's a little temperamental tonight, so let's get some pre-ground pepper. And I think I'm going to go for about 1/2 teaspoon. And of course, you know, once things get cooked, you always have to adjust the seasonings to make sure you've really got it right. So I'm going to go ahead and stir all of that together. Smells good already. And I think I'm going to cook the cauliflower rice, maybe in some more beef broth. That might be good. Let's check on the parsnips and the mushrooms, see how we're coming. Well, we got a good boil going on. So we're going to let that go for probably another 4 minutes or so. I'll give you an update when I figure out what that time is. Okay, so it wound up being closer to 10 minutes to get the parsnips really nice and soft. They're kind of older, little woody. So you can take a look in there and see what we've got. Now all I'm going to do is stick in the immersion blender and get that to come together. Love the immersion blender. And I want to try and get this pretty smooth. And you'll be able to see just how thick it is. Although I'm guessing you're having difficulty hearing me over the immersion blender. Okay. So this is nice and thick. and pretty smooth. So now what we're going to do is, let me grab a spatula that I've been storing in here for this exact purpose. So I get this off of the Immersion blender. One of the things that I really do recommend is tasting along the way, see what it is that you've got. So I'm going to see if this is what I thought it was going to be. And I gotta say, that's pretty yummy. So I think that's going to work out great. I'm going to go ahead and put the blended parsnips and mushrooms in with the rest of the meat. And then we're just going to stir that up together. And I want to go ahead and finish cooking this before I add any coconut milk or beef broth to it. Mostly finish cooking it. So I'm going to just put it on pressure cook, and this will take a minute because the last thing I made was bone broth. So I've got to get it from 2 hours down to, I'm only going to go like 10 minutes, and that'll be plenty, I think. And then we'll do a quick pressure release and test it for seasonings, look at it for thickness, and see what happens next. You know, one other thing I wanted to talk about was the French word mise en place, which is everything in its place is the direct translation. So you may have noticed that I pretty much always have all of my ingredients ready to go, mostly measured out and already prepared, just ready to go into whatever they need to. As you can see, it makes it really easy to get the results that you're looking for when you're not running around in the middle of trying to cook something, trying to figure that out. So I highly recommend that you embrace the theory of mise en place and get your stuff prepared ahead of time. And, you know, if you decide to deviate, and I do that periodically from what my original plan was, if you decide to deviate, that's fine, but you've got most of your stuff ready to go, and it makes it so much easier. So we've got 8 minutes to go on the pressure cooker, and I'm going to get started on the cauliflower rice. Now, this is cauliflower rice that is frozen, and this will be the first time I've tried this, so it will be an experiment. Thanks for hanging out with me. So I'm going to cut open my bag and dump it into the pot that I cleaned it. But this is the same pot that I had done the mushrooms and the parsnips in. And then get rid of the bag. And I'm going to put this one almost high, because from what I've seen on the internet, you can wind up with water crystals in the cauliflower when it's frozen. I don't think I've got that because I used the food saver when I froze it. So I think I'm probably going to be okay. But we're going to stir this up. I don't want it to get like super mushy. I want it to be more rice-like. So we'll see what happens. The other thing I'm going to do with the cauliflower rice is add a bunch of baby spinach to it, because it's a great way to get more vegetables into my diet, and I think it'll go really well with the stroganoff anyway. And I like that combination that my brother introduced me to of adding a bunch of spinach to cauliflower rice. So we're going to do that. Okay, so my cauliflower rice is mostly done, well, mostly defrosted at least, and it feels pretty dry. I'm going to add some of the beef broth to it, get a little more flavor going in there because I can dry it out again. That'll be fine. And we are down to the last minute on the Instant Pot. Okay, so we've just released the pressure from the Instant Pot. That took about 2 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and give this a good stir. Lost my stir. So it's not super thick at this point. And I think I want it a little thicker. I'm going to taste it first though. Flavor's good. I like the flavor a lot. A little garlicky, a little salt and peppery. So what I'm going to do is take about a teaspoon of arrowroot powder and about a quarter cup of beef broth. And I'm going to mix that up and make it a little bit thicker. Let's grab that arrowroot powder. Or flour, I mean, it's the same thing, basically. It's exactly the same thing, not basically. So I'm going to do about a heavy teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon of that, and then we'll shake it up and dump that in, and I'm going to put it back on to cook for probably another like minute, just to get that to thicken up a little bit. So that's about a tablespoon, I think. And we're just going to give that a little whisk there. And then come over here and dump this in. And I am going to add just a little bit of the coconut milk, just for a little extra creaminess. Probably about a third to a half of a cup there, about half a cup, I think. I'll go ahead and stir that in. Oh yeah, looking good. I think that's going to do the trick. So let's go ahead and put the lid back on, set it back up on pressure cook. I'm going to take that down just like 1 minute. That's all it's going to do. Okay, so just in case you were wondering, I started with about 6 cups of frozen cauliflower rice. I added probably a cup of beef broth to it, 3/4 of a cup-ish. And now I'm going to dump in a couple of handfuls of spinach. And we're pretty close to done. We've got the Instant Pot getting ready to do its last thing. We're about there. So, nice big box of spinach here. Let's go ahead and grab some of that. I'm going to stir this in and then add another handful because I can. Because I can. And the spinach wilts down to almost nothing anyway. Yeah, I almost can't see what I put in there so far. So let's dump in another handful. And go ahead and stir that in. I don't know if you can see it sticking over the top edge of the pot. But we're getting there. Okay, so we've thickened up just a little bit. Not a tremendous, it's not super thick. I didn't want it super thick. I'm going to take another taste for seasonings. And I think we're probably about right there. Yeah, that's pretty yummy. I just licked the drip that fell on my hand. So I'm going to go ahead and plate this up. A little cauliflower rice, and then some stroganoff, and we'll be having dinner. So I'm going to get a nice big scoop here. So here we've got our cauliflower rice. Lost my spoon. And I'm going to go ahead and stir this up again. And get some beef and some mushrooms and some onions. Bon appetit. Enjoy. We'll see you next time. If you found some value in this video, and I hope that you did, please give us a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. It helps us get found more easily, so I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, eat well, be well. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below of what you think. If you've tried the recipe, if you've got some ideas about how to make it different or better, that would be awesome. Look forward to seeing you next time.